programs at the Merrimack Valley Chamber's Spring Business Expo, so I want to thank you all for starting your day and starting your Expo day with us. I want to thank our Expo Breakfast sponsor, Nia Meg, as well. I want to give them a round of applause. The Expo, so make sure to check them out as well. So thank you again for being here, and thank you for your support helping make this program possible. So thank you again. Real quick, I'm going to mention some upcoming programs before I introduce our speaker of today. Today's Expo Breakfast on AI. Obviously, AI is a huge issue right now, and we're very fortunate to have her speaking on that issue today. But on your tables, you'll see a couple sheets. The first is, again, the Expo runs from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I see a lot of people who are set up at the Expo today. I see some people who aren't set up. If you're not set up at the Expo, make sure to head right down there following this program. The Expo floor will open immediately after this breakfast, so make sure to go check them out, support your fellow members, and see the great products and services on display. Today at 12 noon, if you have not registered for the Expo lunch, we have Secretary Eric Paley, the state's Economic Development Secretary, who will be speaking with a featured panel as well, right here in this room at 12 noon. There are very limited seats still available, so if you're interested in registering for that lunch, you can see Mary Beth at the Chamber's desk when you first walk in, when you head back downstairs. Yes?
You have a special guest as well coming?
Yes, the Regional Director for the State of Massachusetts of the Small Business Administration, Keegan Shepherdson, will be speaking as well today. So a great panel, great speakers, all headlined by the Secretary as well. That's at 12 noon today. And then at 3 p.m., immediately after the Expo, 3 to 5 p.m., it's completely free to attend right in the back of the room here. We have our Expo after hours Expo mixer from 3 to 5 p.m. Again, free to register. For the event, so if you want to register for that event as well, make sure to see Mary Beth also. And then I'm just going to mention real quick, the Merrimack Valley Chamber has a number of events coming up. Next week we have 3 events. The one I want to feature is speed networking, obviously. We have 3 spots left for that. 30 people is our max. We already have 27 people signed up, so thanks to the Kiwanis Club of Lawrence for sponsoring that event. And there are, again, 3 spots left for that event if you're interested in speed networking next Tuesday. And then on Friday, if you're a Red Sox fan, or if you're just a fan of networking, we have the Boston Red Sox lunch, which takes place at the Eagle Tribune. The editor of the Eagle Tribune sports section, Bill Burt, will be speaking on what he's seen at spring training, give an update for the season. They'll have a fantastic lunch as well, and also time for networking. So that's all taking place next Friday, and registration is available for that program. The last thing I want to mention is that you'll see a yellow flyer on your table. That is for our first annual Taste of Haverhill. If you've been part of the Chamber for a while, you know we've had the Taste of Merrimack Valley year after year now. We're doing the first annual Taste of Haverhill. It's taking place right downstairs, same place at the Expo Room, on Monday, April 13th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. We're maxed out for restaurants now. I think there's
only have a couple of restaurants, I think, right?
There's over 20 restaurants that will be on. Yeah, over 20 that will be on display. So come, once you buy a ticket, all the food in the room is free. Come sample some great food that night, do some networking, have a great time, bring your family, friends, co-workers. Doesn't matter who you want to bring, they're all welcome. And tickets are on sale now at tasteofhaverhill.com. So I could go on and on about upcoming programs, and I'm going to turn it over to our featured speaker. I want to introduce Nicole Fisher, who is the engagement strategist at Merrimack College, and welcome, Nicole.
Awesome. I could stand behind the podium, but I'm really short, and I feel like you won't be able to see me. Is it okay if I just hang out here? And can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Awesome. Okay, great. I was looking at it, and I was like, I think I'm, not quite the right height. Must be this tall to speak behind the podium. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so grateful to Joe and Mike and to the leadership at the Chamber for the opportunity to come and talk with you this morning. As I said, I'm here on behalf of Merrimack College, your neighbor, right over in North Andover, and in Andover as well. I am working with Merrimack College on a number of new initiatives. You might have seen that the college is expanding. They also are, the leadership at the college, the president, the president's office, the deans, are really excited about the opportunities to partner with businesses and to continue to build out a curriculum and a set of programs that not only drive great outcomes for their students, but also are able to kind of be directly connected into the economy of today and what's happening for you locally and what's happening, kind of globally, and how Merrimack can sort of be a partner in all of that. So that's the capacity that I'm here in today. And the topic is AI, which I'm sure we're all a little tired of hearing about, right? It kind of, it's everywhere. It's like AI this, AI that. it's bad, it's good, it's going to change everything. There's so much talk about this topic. So I think what I really want to do here today is I'll spend some time kind of going over some basics and some things that I'm seeing. I'll tell you a little bit about my background and why I care about these things. And then I'd love to just also spend some time with some questions and just open it up to the room and hear a little bit about what the challenges are that you're facing. And I was just talking with Giselle about how you're using AI in your real estate business. And the kind of different ways that you're experimenting with it, because it's not a one-size-fits-all conversation. So anything I say, at the general level will only be so effective, and I'd really love to have some time to get into the discussion. So just to start with, I just want to say how much I love small businesses. I really do. I feel like almost everyone I love in my family and my friends and everything are all like small business owners, and that's just the DNA that I come from. I've also run my own small business for many years as a consultant. My cousins run a marble business that was started by my great-grandparents. That's still 3 people kind of doing the same work that they did 100 years ago. My best friend is a commercial contractor. She runs a commercial contractor business. She's actually built some restaurants in Haverhill. My dad did small businesses. Everybody, I feel like, in human history, technological change just happens. And when it happens, it doesn't go back, right? Like, we didn't go back after the steam engine or the printing press. We didn't go back after the internet. It didn't matter how many articles there were in the early 2000s of the internet is a fad, and what is this Google thing, and this is a bubble, and this is gonna end. It didn't matter, right? We're all sitting here connected by the internet every single day. We're all sitting here with phones that if we lose our phone access for 4 hours, we're changing our whole day to go to the Apple store because we need it, right? And that's not generational. That's everyone across the board. So I think with AI, I want to just address this kind of the fear and resistance stuff around AI head on and say that, yes, I understand that sometimes it's really hard to metabolize these things, and if you're not into it, then I feel that. I also get really fatigued by change, and having to learn new things all the time. It's exhausting. It would have been awesome if whatever I was good at 10 years ago just was still the only things I had to be good at, that would be so cool. But the truth is that no matter how intense our nostalgia is or how much our frustration is deep, that doesn't change the fact that this is just the world that we're living in, right? And this with the amount of investment, the amount of capital allocation, the amount of effort and policy and all of the things that are going into supporting this technology, the likelihood that it's going to go away, one person's opinion, but the likelihood to me is 0. It is going nowhere. And so that means it's our job to figure out how we want to exist in the new world. And so that's what I'm the most interested in, is really just think about for each of your businesses and each of your teams and all of the challenges and the industries that you're facing, what does this mean for you? Because there's another side to this too that's really important to think about, that we talk about AI like it's a monolith, but it's not. It's a billion tiny little things that are different, right? You could ask, I could see questions like, oh, I want to make videos for my real estate business, or something. Giselle and I were just talking 5 seconds ago, so clearly, what could be for my senior living business, or I want to, for my print graphics business, I want to make videos about what I do. What would be the best platform to use to make videos? And as of today, I could say, I think probably Nano Banana. Google's Nano Banana is the best one. But tomorrow, Claude or OpenAI or an entirely new market entrant might release something that obliterates that, right? So the other thing that's really difficult about this particular change as it relates to even the internet, even the things we just metabolized 10, 15, 20 years ago, is that it's faster. And that's what's so hard, is that it's faster. So the recommendations don't last. And that means that all of us have to change our orientation to this technology, and then we have to go back to our teams and take a leadership approach that also means that we have to stay flexible and we have to continue learning. And so I think if I'm going to think about a framework for how to talk about AI, and this is brand new, guys. I was thinking about this over the last week or so, how am I going to talk about this topic? And I came up with something that I want to see if you like. I was thinking about an acronym that and when it comes to AI, you have to pace yourself. PACE. So P, I think, is to pay attention, right? To know what's happening in the world and to be aware of the different technologies and tools that are coming. I think A is oh my God, I just had this like 5 seconds ago in the car. I had it. A is to apply what you're learning. That's what it is. Thank you. Yes, I told you it was new. So A is to apply what you're learning. So just because you're hearing about it, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily metabolizing it. And even if you have, say you have some amazing like Gen Zs or millennials on your team and you're like, you guys figure it out, whatever, I think you should be learning it yourself as well, because it's very difficult to really understand what the capabilities are unless you spend some time. So apply what you learn. C, in the Pace Yourself framework, would be to stay curious, because I think that fear, it's really important to remember psychologically what fear does to us, right? Is it shuts us down. It shuts down all of our like best cognitive capabilities and our creativity, and it makes it much more difficult for us to have a positive orientation. And when we have a positive orientation, we can see possibilities that we can't see otherwise. So C, I think, is this idea of curiosity. You don't have to be obsessed with it. You don't have to be like thrilled every second of the day. But if you can maintain, and this is like maybe the kind of college approach too, would be to maintain sort of an academic curiosity about what's happening. Like, wow, humans are really existing in a new time, and how can I stay curious about that? And then the E, I would say, is if you need it, to not be afraid to look for expertise, right, to support you in your process. There's lots of different people out there that can help. Merrimack, we would love to be part of your team if that makes sense. So this idea of expertise, right, that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to look around and say, I really don't know what to do with these tools, and I might need somebody to walk me through it, So I think that's the Pace Yourself framework. Pay attention, apply what you're learning, stay curious and not fearful, and then don't be afraid to ask for expertise as you're bringing these things into your businesses. A few other things I would like to kind of characterize around AI that I've been thinking a lot. I think, and I just gave a talk on this at South by Southwest in Texas, about generational dynamics. So I think I would guess that another thing that a lot of you are dealing with in your businesses is that you have people of lots of different ages that are having to work together, and you have really different approaches to work and to life. And sometimes that probably causes a little bit of friction, right? Like, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world. I do think that with generational differences, it's important to remember that I think the media stirs us up into a frenzy around it, right? I think it's very fun for journalists to write things about boomers versus Gen Z and to kind of get all the comments going, on that. So I don't think it helps that we're in a media environment that like wants us to be sort of finding differences instead of finding common ground. But as it relates to technology, I do think that there's some important things to think about, with generational differences in your workplaces. And the first thing is that my experience of this is not that any one generation has a specific orientation towards technology versus another. I've met a lot of Gen Zers that are really nervous about AI and are not excited to use it. And that might be because they are nervous about entering a job market where they might not be relevant in the future, and they're kind of like, what is the point of any of this, right? Like, all the jobs are going to be gone anyways. It might be because they're concerned about sustainability and they've seen things about water usage and AI and they really care about that. Or on the other side, maybe they really are just digitally native and they're obsessed with it and they're using it to like do all their essays and stuff like that, and that's causing some weird stuff with their parents and their teachers, and they have maybe a really positive orientation to it. It's not one thing, right? So like, I think it's important not to assume that like young people are going to be one way and older folks are going to be another, because on the other side, one of the things I do when I do AI training and AI implementation support is we'll do kind of a current state assessment at the beginning, right? We'll see where we're at. And usually working with leadership teams on this. So usually this is like C-suite and kind of VPs and executives, that kind of level, or business owners. or maybe one team within a larger organization like the communications team. And we'll do a kind of an assessment or a survey first, and we'll ask people how they feel. And it, again, varies widely, right? Like some leaders are like, this is amazing. I never want to open my inbox again. I want a robot to do it all for me. Like everything I hate is going to be automated and I'm thrilled. Like there's people that feel like that. And then there's people that feel like, I'm skeptical of all of this. This feels like a cybersecurity risk. This feels like something I don't want to deal with because the way that I've done business for the last 10 years and 20 years and 30 years and 50 years works great. Right? Like, why do I have to do this? So, so I think that's one thing just to keep in mind, that the generations are going to have nuanced reactions to these technologies. It's not going to be one broad brush. And so I think one thing that I think would be a very cool program that businesses could think about on this would be something like bi-directional mentoring, right? So I've seen some things of, obviously mentoring, we all know what mentoring is, right? You've been there and you teach the young ones how to go where you've gone. Reverse mentoring is getting some kind of traction out in the world, where it's like, well, the young folks have the digitally native skill sets, right? They understand TikTok culture. They use AI all the time. They were born looking at a phone, basically. So we need them to teach the older folks what to do. But I actually think the richness is in the mutual exchange. Right, so things like, if you think about a bi-directional mentoring program, what would that look like? I think what's cool about that is like Gen Z, they came into the workplace at a very difficult time, right? They didn't get the benefit of sort of learning in an environment from everyone before them because of COVID. A lot of times they were coming into a totally virtual organization, an organization in disarray. Some of the things they thought were going to happen just totally weren't going to happen at all. They haven't had that time to build the kind of culture and sort of the soft skills of the workplace, and so they need a lot of support to feel a sense of belonging in the workplace, as well as just the kind of industry knowledge that's so essential, right? Because you can't do everything with just AI. Like you have to understand real estate, or you have to understand like your machinery, right? Like you have to understand the nuances of your clients and their kind of emotional landscape. And AI can only give you so much as far as that's concerned. So when you're thinking about mentoring, I think it's about teaching younger folks the things that AI won't know about your industry, and then also helping them to have kind of a good workplace experience for the first time because it's been so disrupted. But in the other direction, I think that there's a lot that young folks just know that older folks can really benefit from, right? Like I'm a millennial, I'm firmly in the middle, but I have a Gen Z cousin, and I love to call her and have her make fun of me for things and be like, oh my God, why are you doing that? Or why are you saying that? Because I learn, right? Like it's really fun to kind of like understand what her perspective is. And then that helps kind of keep me sharp and keep me relevant. And the truth is that they're gonna be better with these tools probably than any of us are because it's just native, right? So I think this idea of nuance and taking an approach within your workplace that allows everyone to bring their strengths, to bring their concerns, and then building kind of programs that allow for all of that complexity to exist, right? One thing I'm thinking about with AI a lot is this idea of like fragmentation as a feature, not a bug, right? Like I think we all feel pretty fragmented a lot of the time with these types of things. It's like, oh, a new tool here, a new tool there, and then you're trying to change this and change that, and you have all these different like departments and like it's all kind of broken up. And that feels like, wouldn't it be nice if we had kind of a unified approach, right? Like I think maybe there's some relief when it's like, oh, we're just going to be a Microsoft Copilot shop or whatever, like someone makes a decision. But the reality is that actually, like I said before, these tech tools are changing all the time, right? Even the ones that are the best right now could be bumped out by a new market entrant. They could be acquired into one of the bigger ones. Something you're experimenting with now might not even exist in 2 years. So understanding that the kind of fragmentation of this landscape, it's a feature, not a bug, right? This is something that's going to stick around. So we need to actually allow for that complexity to exist and then maybe also like have some fun with it, right? Like maybe it's not so much that it's like a mess, it's more like it's a sampler platter, right? And we're not gonna get too invested in like any one thing. I will say at an enterprise level, you probably do have to make some decisions, right? So if you do have a bigger enterprise IT structure, you have cybersecurity concerns, you have bigger contracts you have to sign. What I'm seeing generally speaking is that most businesses are gonna end up becoming like a Google Gemini forward shop or a Microsoft kind of Copilot shop or something, and that's fine. Or maybe you get your like enterprise ChatGPT account. It is really important to have an IT strategy. But I think there's kind of what the organization does, and then there's what I would encourage each individual to do to stay relevant in this, right? So another thing that I'm seeing in a lot of organizations is something I've been calling shadow AI, where depending how big your businesses are, this may or not be relevant, but particularly in kind of on the larger side, if you're in a mid-sized business or going into a larger business, you'll have the leadership saying, everyone has to do AI, right? Like AI. And then you'll have the IT enterprise trying to keep up with that mandate and saying, these are the tools that are approved. And sometimes it's things like, ChatGPT, but only the version that's like 3 or 4 versions back, because that's the one that we have full approval for from the IT department. But then there's a mandate on the employees to get their work done faster than ever before, right? And so there's a very natural consequence of things that is happening, which is that people are cutting corners. People are doing stuff on their phones and they're texting it to themselves or something, right? And there's leaks in kind of the IT and the cybersecurity infrastructure because of the pressure to be faster and more productive and to stay, and just from a literal personal career perspective, to stay relevant, right? Doesn't match with the slowness of the enterprise IT kind of approvals. So I think that the approach to something like this is not to punish people, but to acknowledge that there's a gap and to say that we know that this is probably happening, and so we need to actually design our policies and our management practices to give grace to people that are making mistakes, to allow them to surface, because the worst thing that could happen is somebody's doing something secretly that is an exposure risk and they're not telling you about it because they're afraid, right? So we have to acknowledge that as technology gets faster and faster, sometimes there are gonna be things happening that we need to corral, but our response to that makes a huge difference, right? In terms of kind of how it feels. And that there's so much pressure on each of us individually to stay relevant in today's economy. The last thing I kind of want to say, I think from an organizational design level around AI, is that I actually think AI as a challenge isn't just about AI. I think what it really is about knowledge management inside of an organization. And we've all done some degree of knowledge management over the years, right? But right now, my way of looking at this is that there are 4 types of knowledge that exist within any kind of business organization, really of any size. You could be like a 2-person consulting shop or, a Fortune 100 company, but there's 4 types of knowledge that are happening. The first is that kind of deep industry know-how that you get only from being in it for your entire career, or your family's been in it for generations. This is like my cousins with the marble shop. Like, they know stuff about stone that I would never know, and no one knows, because it's just a part of the work that they've been doing for a really long time. And that's in people's heads and in people's hands, right? That's where that knowledge lives. The second kind is digitally native sort of fluency, right? And this is kind of on the other end of that. This is where the younger folks are coming up, and they just know how to internet. They know how to use their phones. They know what the culture is. They know what's cool and what's not, and what's going to resonate and what's not. They know how to use things and do workflows, and they know what apps are coming and which ones are going. So there's that digitally native sort of fluency is the second type of knowledge. There's a third type of knowledge, which is the official knowledge. So this is like your SOPs, right? And your Microsoft SharePoint, and the places where you've written down the official protocols of things. And if you're an operations person or an HR person, you're always maybe trying to get people to use it and look at it and not ignore it. And and you're trying to kind of get that embedded knowledge in your business to be relevant for day-to-day practices and for people to use the protocols that they're supposed to use. And that is often, if you think about AI, that's divorced from AI, right? That's living, unless you have a really integrated, AI that's crawling all of your files already and stuff like that, which some people do, but many times that's separate. And then the fourth type of knowledge is a new one. This is AI, right? So the fourth type is this kind of decontextualized intelligence, right? Like it's intelligence about basically everything except for the nuances of your business. It knows a lot about a lot of stuff, but it doesn't know the details. So that's where you have to manage context to give AI what it needs to actually give you good advice. Otherwise you get kind of crappy generic outputs that aren't really helpful and aren't really differentiated. The other thing that's really important to know about AI, decontextualized intelligence that way, is that it's all looking backwards, right? One thing that AI isn't very good at is looking ahead, because it has a corpus of data that is from the past, is from history. But I think we all know that in a lot of times, what got you here won't get you there, right? So AI is really smart, but it's not everything. It's not necessarily innovation and novel thinking. And it's not contextualized intelligence for your specific industry. So I think that actually the organizational design challenge that I think all of you are facing, that all of us are facing, is what do we do with these four types of knowledge? How do we make it actionable? How do we make it accessible to the people in our organizations to use these types of things to make good decisions, to get outcomes for your clients, or to sell a house, or to close a bigger contract than you've ever closed before? That the intelligence is there. It's just separated in these different ways. And some of it's in our heads and our hands, and some of it's in the computer. And even in the computer, it's in different places and it's accessed in different ways. So every organization is going to have a different knowledge design problem going into this next kind of phase of business. And I think that's what we're all really facing at the end of the day. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe kind of wind down me just talking at you and make some space for us to just have some conversation about what you're facing in your businesses. But I'd like to just close again by thanking you all for being here, thanking the Chamber for putting this together, and by saying that I believe so deeply in small businesses. It's just such an important part of our economy. It's an important part of our lives and our culture and our families. And that's the DNA that I come from and what I believe in. We are in a world where capital is accruing at the top, right? And I think we can all see that. It's like it's private equity, it's massive companies, it's data centers, it's all of this stuff. And if we want to stay competitive and kind of still have small businesses being performing and not just getting by, but like thriving, like I want everybody to feel awesome and excited about what you're doing, and your clients to feel excited about working with you instead of going with somebody that's like a big nameless, faceless corporation. I want to encourage everyone to take a stance toward this technology that, like, what if it all works out? What if it's okay? What if it actually just like makes the things that you hate easier? I'm not saying that bad things won't happen. I do tend to take an optimistic approach, but we can talk about fears also if you'd like to. I think my point though is not to say that fear doesn't exist, but in terms of planning your next steps, it's not helpful. It's not helpful to move from a place of fear. And is anyone a science fiction fan? Anyone a Dune fan in the room? Yeah. All right. I got a couple. It's deep nerd stuff, But there's a really cool thing in Dune. It's like a poem or a prayer or a meditation. It's called the Litany Against Fear, and it starts out by saying fear is the mind killer. And it's just one of the most powerful, like it gives me goosebumps, right? Like when you're in a state of fear, it's very hard to make good decisions. And what you all want to be doing is making good decisions for your businesses and for your clients and for your industries. So that's the perspective that I'm trying to bring, is even though it's scary, even though it's a royal pain in the butt to figure out new stuff, even though we're all tired of learning new things and we would rather just maybe relax and do what we did 5 years ago that we're already great at, that's not the perspective that's going to get us where we need to go. Right, so remember to, pace yourself, pay attention, apply what you're learning, stay curious, seek expertise as you're navigating all of this. Remember that this isn't just about AI, it's about activating all of the different types of knowledge that are available to you in new and exciting ways. And remember to that what you do is important. That small business is important, that mid-sized business is important, that this is a absolutely essential part of the economy and of American culture, is that we have our small businesses stay healthy. So this is just the next wave of change. We've ridden the past ones, we can ride this one too. So with that, I think I'd love to just pause and make some space for questions. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah, what's on your mind? Could you also tell us your name and what you do?
My name is Sabir Qureshi. I work for Mobility Services in Vancouver. I'm the business development manager there. I come from the boomer side.
All right.
So, yeah.
Love
I have
it.
a question, but I'm up to date with the technology today, okay?
Yep.
I have a question. Just tell me in 2 words about AI. 2 words.
2 words?
Yes. AI.
It's here.
Well, what I think my school of thought says, you are smart, you get smart. Right?
Yeah.
AI is always dependent upon you, but you have the knowledge. It's nothing
Yes.
machine, nothing knowledge. It's your data.
Yes.
It's your knowledge.
That's right.
So you have to ask smart. You get smart. Reply,
Yes.
you see? So you have to,
Go ahead.
yeah, so you have to understand that irrespective you go into AI technology and all that stuff, you still will be dependent upon your data behind.
That's exactly
your
right.
experience, your exposure, your vision. So I believe it, irrespective the AI come and replaces the technology and everything, still it's dependent.
Yes.
Dependent upon what and how you want to ask and what you want to get out of AI.
Yes.
Am I right?
I completely agree with you, and I'll give you a different 2 words.
Yeah.
Maybe we could say amplified intelligence, right? It is here. It's in all of your head. You know how your industries work. And so I think that one of the most exciting ways to think about AI is how can it amplify me, right? Like how can it help me see around corners? How can it help me anticipate problems? How can it help me deal with a problem? Like, I mean, I'm sure folks have used it this way, but I've had plenty of times where I have maybe a tricky conversation ahead of me, and I'll ask AI, how would, not me in my frustrated state, but how would like Dale Carnegie respond to this message, right? Like, maybe I'll just see if I can get a higher, better perspective in this moment rather than moving from my place of anger and kind of limitation in my language. So I think it's an enabler. I think it's an amplifier. I think you're exactly right about that. What else? Yeah.
Hi Nicole, I'm Luz Frazier. I'm the founder CEO of the Legal Model Collective. I've spent the last 30 years in my career working in really large organizations, Fortune 100, startups, and nonprofits. Today I own my own HR organizational development practice.
Oh,
and
amazing.
what I find is, I really liked your comment because many of us know this saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Totally.
Right? Same thing with AI. So what you put into it in terms of how you're prompting it is going to give you quality response, or not. But the point that I wanted to make is that what I find small businesses are already struggling with today in my practice, in my work. So I'm working with small businesses, I'm working with nonprofits. And when I ask them, what's your goal for this year? Simple question. What is your goal for 2026? And do you even have an idea of what you're trying to strive for 2027? So I, as your partner, thinking about business and people strategy, I can help. And the answer, most of the time, what do you think it is? Well, we're kind of like, So I think that there's a layer when we think about AI as business owners and leaders of what we do, is if we're going to lead change in terms of bringing AI as a partner, a collaborator, a tool, you've got to be clear on what the input is.
Yes.
What is the input? What do you want your organization to use AI for?
Right.
What output? What strategic intent?
Yes.
Once you have that, you can collaborate with whoever, you can learn it yourself, and then you pick the right tools
Right.
that align toward that. Because if not, you're just gonna be using AI for all sorts of different things, great, but it's not gonna get your business anywhere. So that's how we're helping businesses
Sure.
with understanding, just the first layer of this is like, do you have your house in order? Do you understand
Right.
what you're asking your people to do? Because if the expectation is not clear and there's no means to an end, that means your business is gonna grow and all the goals that you have, then what are you really using AI for, other
Yeah.
than busyness, just to do things?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I totally agree, and I'll just support you with some other thoughts. There's a cool essay. It's called Solve Everything, I think, solveeverything.org, and it lays out this framework for, it's a very like techno-optimist thing, so it may not be for everybody, but it lays out this framework for how AI could change everything, could change the world. And it starts with really defined benchmarks, that if you have really clear targets and then you aim the machine at the target, then things can happen from there, right? So I think in a lot of ways, the challenge is to decide what you need your organization to do and then how these tools can help you get there, exactly as you said. And that's why I think the upfront work is important. I would love to learn more about your business and your process, and the way I've done it is, like I said, with these kind of upfront assessments. I love to think about, I love to ask people, what do you do every day? Like, tell me all the things you're doing. And then I ask them, what do you hate that you do every day? One of your goals can be grow top line revenue by 15%. Your goals can also be stop doing all the stuff I hate doing, right? Both of those are good goals, and maybe one would contribute to the other. So you can literally start with your own pain and see if you can automate it away. That's how a lot of software developers have invented a lot of the tools that exist in our world today. So yes, I think you're right on. I think there was, I think I saw you before.
Yeah, I'm going to take it. My name's Andy Furman. I own a Medicare planning consulting firm.
Interesting.
I'm going to take it to the other end of the spectrum.
Do it.
With some of these comments. I love the automate everything you hate doing, and that's what we're doing.
Cool.
I believe AI will become your most efficient administrative assistant.
Yeah.
My question is, my oldest child is a junior in high school. And as she starts her college search, I would love your perspective from your work at Merrimack and other higher institutions. I don't think AI is going to replace human beings, but I think it's going to replace certain functions and roles.
Yes.
My question is, looking forward 6 years to when she may be matriculating across the stage for the degree, which degrees do you think will become obsolete because of AI? And do you see any that may be created or enhanced?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. I also heard you stole my question.
Yeah,
Over
that's
here.
what I was just gonna raise.
Is there anything you want to add?
No, that's pretty much.
Yeah. So I think what I'd like to do with this question is talk a little bit about what I'm seeing in higher ed in general, and then also give kind of the Merrimack perspective on it. So higher ed is at a real inflection point. I think we all kind of know that, right? When I was going to school, which wasn't even that long ago, I graduated high school in 2005. When I was going to school, it was everybody's going to college, you're going to the best college you possibly can, and you will take on as much debt as needed to make that happen, right? That was the framework. And that was it. And I went to if you all know Notre Dame on the South Shore, I went to a very competitive Catholic school, and their job was to get us into the best freaking college possible, and make sure we all went, right? So that was a different world. In today's world, I think we have a lot of combining pressures happening. We have a lot of questioning about student debt and the value of carrying student debt. And I know that's something that my generation is really grappling with, is regret around kind of taking on all of this debt because it limits your options. I think we also have, as you're pointing out, a rapidly evolving economy where the old model of how a university works, and even the idea of having people who are professors that aren't practicing, right? That they're not out in the field. They're missing out on stuff. So what kind of education are people really getting? I'm kind of a few different minds on this, and I'm don't claim to have a crystal ball by any means, but I think that we are working on this and we have some guesses, some kind of strong guesses and instincts about where to go. The first thing that I would say is there's a crisis of affordability in education that we just can't look away from. I mean, we have to really name the fact that there's bloated programs that are not in the student's best interest. And so there's a lot of reasons that you might go to college, and there's a lot of reasons why you might not go to college, and cost for many, many families is a major factor in that. So the Merrimack approach to that has actually been to try to innovate on cost. So if you go to the Merrimack website right now, there's a $17,000 degree. And there's a lot of innovation happening behind the scenes to figure out how to deliver an on-campus experience that prepares students for the real world, but to do that at a more affordable rate. So that's one thing, is kind of innovating on the product and then thinking and naming affordability as a challenge, right? And actually making that the goal. There's other things that colleges can do than that we think they should be doing, which is that colleges have an enormous collection of assets that are just kind of sitting there, right? Like, there's no reason why colleges can't be making money in other ways, so it doesn't all be incumbent on the student and their families to take on debt to pay for all of these costs. So there's other kind of innovative programs that Merrimack is working on to offset costs to make it possible for education to become affordable. So those are kind of macro picture things. I think to your exact question of kind of the degrees, I think that there's sort of two different ways to think about this. I think that actually something that's very likely as AI becomes more ubiquitous and as our lives are just increasingly, technology just becomes sort of like the skin we're wearing and the lens we're seeing through, right? I think there's a very strong possibility that in 5 or 10 years we won't have phones as much, we'll have glasses. Or even contact lenses if we're kind of looking in the future, and we'll be like looking at the world through an intermediated virtual reality, right? Like, as that tech becomes more and more ubiquitous, I think we're seeing a real shift in the other direction to prioritize what is fundamentally human. And there's really cool examples of this. For like I saw on, I spent a lot of time on TikTok just to make sure I'm relevant, you know. And it's a wild place, and I learned a lot here. And I got a video that was a bunch of adults, like full-on adults, wearing rainbow tie-dye shirts, and they were at a musical theater camp for adults. And it was a no-tech zone. It was just like a bunch of happy people singing Broadway songs in t-shirts. And so I think I'm bringing that up in terms of the degrees to say that I actually think for some people, humanities degrees are still going to be the way to go. To understand philosophy, to understand art, to understand fundamentally human things, and then match them with these kind of areas of the economy that might grow as we want more and more human experiences. So I think we're probably on the corporate retreat side. I would guess we're gonna see more, you go to a place for 3 days and you put your phone in a box and we focus on just relationship building, or you go on a boat and you do that, or you know, whatever it is. Or we have family vacations that are like less and less tech vacations. I think there's actually probably a lot of money to be made in the space of human, fundamentally and fully human experience. I think food is a big area that people are like really questioning corporate production of food and additives and everything, right? So I think like going back to just sort of some basics as far as like what human beings need is actually gonna be a big ricochet from all of the technology. But I think on the other side, and maybe in a more, depends on the kid, right? Depends on the student, depends on the family. I think that there's certain business and technology skills that are really important to have. I think that it's getting more to like, I would less advise someone to become an expert in any one programming language, and more say you need to understand where software is going and understand enough to guide the agents to build it for you, right? So understanding kind of like a differing role in terms of the technology development. There's an example of a company in New York, they're called 10X. Does anyone get Morning Brew, the newsletter Morning Brew? It's a cool newsletter. They had a big acquisition a few years back. He's the founder of Morning Brew, is now doing an AI company. And his software developers at that company that are building AI for like big Fortune 100 companies are being paid on outcomes, not on salary. So they are incentivized to build as much as possible, as fast as possible, as well as possible. And they're doing that with Claude Code, right? They're doing that with agents. They're not doing that by sitting there like hammering through stuff. There's another guy that I follow. There's a really great business book that came out like 25 years ago called Rework. By a company, 37 Signals, people are nodding. David Heinemeier Hansen is the co-founder of Rework. He's the technical founder. And he actually, they have a great podcast too, Rework, and he's always a contrarian. He's always like, I don't know about this stuff. I don't know about this AI stuff, if it's any good. It's actually crap. And he's like, he's very happy to be like, all of that is crap and we do what we do, you know, and his taste level is really high. But I actually saw an interview with him recently where he was like, you know what, I think the tools have crossed over. And now even me as like an artist of software, like he developed Ruby on Rails, which is the programming language that Shopify is built on, that Instacart is built on, that all the big, like so many big apps. He literally invented that open source code. And he was like, you know what, it's actually at the point where even I am starting to like, he likes the art of code. And was a believer in that literally until like 3 or 4 months ago. So I think in terms of technology, it's about directing the agents. And then in terms of business, I think like, dude, I think sales is still so important, right? Like you still have to like build trust with people. You still have to understand kind of these fundamental skills. So I think to me that becomes, it's not just the program, it's also what's the experience in the program, where's it going to get you, right? So, and Merrimack, the way that we're approaching this is by really building out our experiential education programs and saying it's not just about what you learn in the classroom. Yes, it's good to have professors that have knowledge and relevance in their fields and everything, but you also need to spend time working and really understand whatever industry you're kind of going into. So one of the flagship co-op programs at Merrimack, for example, is an accounting program. Run by this amazing professor that everybody calls Bucks. He's designed this super cool program where in the fall, the students are learning about the kind of tax law changes for that season, and then in the spring, they're supporting during tax time. And then they wrap up like mid-April, and then all the accountants go on vacation because they're tired, and the students come back to school to kind of finish out a quick little class, and then that's the end of the co-op. So and this is kind of hot off the presses, but something we're working on at Merrimack that we'd love to talk to all of you about is how to design co-ops for your industries and for what's actually happening right now, because we want our students to have that experiential education in the relationships, right, that are going to drive them forward. So I would say I don't know the answer of like 100% this degree versus this degree, right? Like I'm also not, there's a lot of people that will say like, don't get an art degree, get a business degree. I think like, I'm a musician, I studied architecture and now I'm here talking to you about AI, right? Like I literally like studied something completely different. And I think probably a lot of us have that. So if it's the right thing for your kid to study something human, you know, then I think maybe the emphasis needs to be, we're gonna need more of this stuff. And so how do you make what you're doing like relevant to other people? Or if they wanna study music, there's a lot, like I would have probably studied music in college if I had somebody who told me that like engineering, like music and audio engineering was a thing. But I came from like a family of Italian immigrants and they were like, you're gonna be an engineer. You're not going to music school. Like it doesn't matter how good you are, and I'm very good. But if somebody had told me that was a possibility, you know, I don't regret it. My goal right now is to find an Italian restaurant to sing Frank Sinatra songs at, and I'll be very happy with that. And I'm also really passionate about technology, so, you know, this isn't a regrets thing, but I think it's about who is the kid, what is the experience going to do for them, and then making some guesses about where the economy is going around what is most important for kind of like connecting with who we are as human beings and that being a part of the economy. I'm telling you, this theater camp video like rewired my brain. I was just like, oh, people are paying money to go to a place and sing theater songs and I want to do it. Like, whoa, like, and I'm not unique. Like, one thing I think that I'm good at is knowing that I'm not unique. knowing that if I'm having an experience, probably a lot of other people are having that experience too. So I hope that that helps. I don't have my crystal ball on exactly which degrees, but I think affordability is a factor, and you should I think colleges have a responsibility to figure that out, and I think I'm very proud of the way that Merrimack is attacking that head on. And then I think it's about guessing where the economy's going, and then doing your best to get education with schools that are going to be applying that in the real world, so that students aren't kind of getting just an ivory tower experience. How did I do? Does that do all right for you there?
Yeah, no.
It's a
I
hard
think
question.
Super, but a lot of the humanities,
Yeah.
human interaction, right? And then I think as a parent guiding my child, the questions to ask universities and to look under the hood.
Yes.
Who is creating that experiential learning?
Right.
So it's less about the degree and more about how you're approaching
Yeah.
the future.
It's a great question, I appreciate it. I see a hand over here.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm Rhonda from Needham Bank, and I hear a lot about AI, banking in 10 years,
Sure.
be around. and
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man, gosh.
'Cause I want to have a job.
I'm like, can I go to AI and get into school on finance real quick so I can, look, I don't know. I do think that industries where a lot of numbers can be automated are vulnerable. And it's important to be realistic about that. But I don't think capital allocation is going anywhere. So I think people that understand finance and understand how money works, I think people are still going to be buying property. They're still going to be buying houses. I would say to try to understand also some of the other edge technologies that might be relevant, right? So like blockchain, smart contracts, I think would be another thing to kind of pay attention to, that there might be other ways that financial transactions are going to be done in the future. I think human beings are still going to need to move money around, right? I just
A
think
lot of
that,
it's digital.
yes,
Like, I hardly ever, I work at
Yeah.
a bank, but I do my banking right here.
exactly
you know?
right.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, and I think we can expect other big changes like that. So I think there's a macro question there. There's also a personal career question, I think, for all of us to answer. On the career side, I think that's where the curiosity and experimentation is very important. Like sign up for newsletters, test free trials of things, get in the mix, of what's happening, and do your best to pay attention. And stay ahead of it, right? Like within your own organization. Like I think it's much better to be directing the change that's happening than trying to, deal with it being imposed upon you. But I think banking's still going to exist. Banking has existed in
right.
a bajillion different technology landscapes, right? Like since human beings were like giving each other clamshells for transactions. Like we've done it a lot of different ways. We'll do it another different way, but I think your expertise is still going to be really valuable. It's probably going to be managed differently.
I think AI would probably make our jobs easier.
Yes. And maybe expand your ability to do the things that you really like about your job, right? Or take away some of the bureaucracy, and maybe there's more ability to get people financing for cool stuff. I mean, I think banks are wonderful partners. Like I worked in economic development, and you're the ones that are helping bring these things to life. So if there's less bureaucracy on your plate, maybe there's more room for partnership. Maybe there's more room for strategy and kind of activating certain industries. But we're still going to need to allocate capital. I just think that the technology of how that's going to happen is going to be different.
I have to say, I love ChatGPT.
I mean,
It's my best friend.
I know she's a people pleaser, but
Really
she's
is.
wonderful.
Yeah.
She's very supportive. I love a little
love it.
chatty. Mike's.
I was gonna mention we have
Yeah.
time for one more question.
Okay.
I believe you'll be here for a few minutes.
I
after
will.
the
Yeah,
presentation.
I would love to keep talking. I would love to speak with you again, but I'm wondering, is there anyone that hasn't gotten a chance to speak
No
yet?
problem.
But otherwise, you can close us out.
But do you think that?
I'm sorry.
then you can speak
We had a
to-
taker. We had a taker.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm in IT.
Oh, amazing.
So, for the last couple of years,
What's your name?
Armin,
Armand.
managed service provider.
Okay.
So, we deal with very small businesses. And I would add frustration to the fear.
Yes.
And the business owners that I deal with, they're juggling competition, pricing,
Yeah.
and innovation.
Yeah.
So when I know enough to be dangerous, but I know I don't know everything, or, not up to pace.
Yeah.
What would be the first couple of steps that you would advise small business owners to start?
Yeah. Can I ask you a couple questions? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
Because you're really the expert in this. What are you seeing in terms of your service delivery right now? Like, if you think about a couple of contracts and how you're talking about it with AI, what are the
Yeah.
conversations you're having?
Most of the time, my clients are open to a discussion when cybersecurity policies come up.
Yeah.
And we can start talking about shadow IT, and we can talk
Right.
about policies and what they should have.
Yeah.
But a lot of business owners, I think, would benefit from the softer side of AI. We've been using AI on service delivery in our platforms for 2-3 years.
Oh, wow.
And
Amazing.
always, changing.
Yep.
But the sales, the marketing, the person-to-person, AI is the tool, I think, that small businesses are going to be able to leverage
Yeah.
to make the playing field a lot better or easier for them
Yeah.
to compete with the bigger companies.
Yeah.
They're
To compete, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly
So-
right. Well, one thing I would say is to characterize the advantages that small businesses have. So, for example, like my husband works for Booz Allen, which is a big, government contracting company, and he can't use ChatGPT because it's not allowed. And so small businesses don't have, depending on what your small business is, a lot of times small businesses have the agility to try stuff that big businesses don't, which means exactly what you're saying is that there's leverage to be had, right? There's arbitrage to be had in implementing tools because you're fast and you're small and you can try stuff. And if it doesn't work, you can just turn the subscription off and move on. Right, so I think one is to characterize it as an advantage and say, like, how can we use this to eat somebody's lunch that's bigger than us? Like, that's a fun, juicy challenge to figure out. In terms of kind of the steps, I would say, if I was just to make a kind of generalized prescription to think about, I think probably every organization should have an official, sanctioned, general AI platform that your team can use internally. So if you're a Microsoft shop, that's probably like a Copilot implementation maybe. It could be a ChatGPT Enterprise. You get benefits with, like I have a tiny little business, a little tiny consultancy. And we have like the business ChatGPT and we have a business Claude. And one of the benefits of that is that it doesn't use your data to train the central models, right? So I wouldn't want my employees or my contractors to be putting a bunch of proprietary information into free AI. It's much better to just invest in like the literally like $20 a month or whatever it is to have it be guardrailed in that way. So having a general AI tool and then maybe like experimenting within that tool to see how much you can get out of it, right? Like custom GPTs, like I've designed GPTs for all kinds of stuff. I have a proposal creation GPT that has all the context on my company and can help me like knock out the first parts of a proposal really fast. So I would say one general purpose AI that is official, within your company is a really good idea. And then I would say for each, either for each division, because sales is different than marketing is different than, legal or whatever, or for your industry, there may be purpose-built AIs that might be relevant. So like for marketing, I've just been experimenting with a really cool tool called Distro that is like a content creation tool that I'm using for my LinkedIn. It will actually interview you like a podcast host. It like has a back and forth conversation, asks you questions, and you can be like, no, I didn't like that, no. And then you can get really passionate in a way that you can't when you're hammering on your keyboard, and then it processes that into content for you, right? So that might be, I would say pick a couple of tools, whether it's a sales AI that trains your agents, or it's a legal AI that can do some kind of paralegal work. I think it's something called Harvey that I've heard of. So one general one, and then pick a couple to experiment with. Be aware with the purpose-built ones that any of them at any point could get acquired or beat out right? Like Google or anybody that has a lot of resources could just build a competitor. And so you could be ready to turn that thing off, at any point. But that's kind of the general approach, I would say. Make sure you have an official one that is set up properly from an IT standpoint and doesn't release any proprietary data. And then do guardrailed experiments in your industry or on a department by department basis. And just encourage everyone to be curious and continue to learn. It's not going anywhere.
Well, thank you again, Nicole. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Obviously, it's long on this topic, so maybe we'll have Nicole back in the future as well.
I'd love to
We
come back.
appreciate that. I just want to present that to you as well.
Ooh, thank you
It's a
so
token of our
much.
appreciation. So
Thank
thank
you.
you again.